Welcome to the Herd's official YouTube channel. Make sure to like and subscribe. Don't forget to check out the Colin Cowherd podcast, all of our NFL instant reactions, and more football content.
Favorites in the NFL this year of at least 4 points are 12-0 on the season. Why? Okay, this is something I've talked about for 3 years on the show. It's the disappearing middle class in the NFL. It's the disappearing middle class. So in any business, when one thing primarily becomes the thing you have to have or do to succeed, that business becomes haves and have-nots. And like in tech, if you don't embrace AI in 5 years, you're dead. Now, everybody's going to, obviously. But what the NFL has become, to me, over the last 3 years, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but I don't love it. It has become David Stern's NBA. David Stern, because he took over a dying NBA, leaned into stars and market size. You could have 2 and 3 and 4 superstars on one team. And if the big markets could afford them, so be it. Adam Silver doesn't like that. Adam Silver took over the NBA from David Stern, where it was top heavy. And Adam Silver said, I want to make it more even. Well, under Adam Silver, 7 years, 7 champs. We can argue which is better, but what the NFL has become is David Stern's NBA. Because the only way to win in this league consistently, you have to have a great quarterback because of safety rules post CTE story and CTE $900 million check written. NFL protects quarterbacks as much as they can. And they've changed the legislation, the rules of the sport to favor the quarterbacks. So to me, the haves in the NFL right now, you have to have at least a B-plus quarterback. The haves are Buffalo, Baltimore, Kansas City, Chargers, Cincy when Joe Burrow is healthy, Texans, and Denver. Those are the haves in the AFC. In the NFC, it's Green Bay, Philly, Washington, San Francisco, Rams, yes, Brock Purdy, Detroit, Tampa, and Dallas. 15 teams. Now, we can argue about Sam Darnold. Certainly could argue about it. These are the absolute haves. In fact, if you go to the last 4 seasons in the NFL and look at the last 16 teams that have made a conference championship, it's only 9 different organizations, but it's 16 teams. 15 of 16 had a Pro Bowl quarterback, a quarterback that is at some point made a Pro Bowl. The exception is Jimmy Garoppolo, who under Kyle Shanahan was damn close to a Pro Bowl quarterback. He isn't now. He wasn't before, but he was pretty darn good. He led Mahomes in the fourth quarter. Completes 1 deep ball, beats Mahomes probably. So the reality is what you're seeing in the NFL is, and this is what's really changed for me betting the NFL. Last year and a half, Blazing 5 is hard. Couldn't figure it out last year. I'm like, I was always a guy that took underdogs, especially if they had a viable quarterback. Favorites now cover. One of my favorite bets next week. I like the Ravens over the Lions. They're a home favorite. They're a better team. Jared Goff's not the same outside at night as he is in a dome. And usually I'd be like, oh, I got Jared Goff. I got value. It's like, no, I'll probably just take the favorite. I mean, tonight is not a game I would bet because it's a 12-plus spread. I stay away from those games. I would take Buffalo. I would just take the big favorite. And I think there's a real gap in the league. It's very much David Stern's NBA. And I love David Stern's NBA. Adam Silver, some argue, it's like the 70s NBA. We have no dynasties, but it's more even. When you could win running the football, when you could win with defense and be a playoff team with running the football and defense, it wasn't as exciting, but it was more even. And by the way, you can criticize Jimmy Garoppolo, but as a Niner quarterback, his passer rating was 99. It's B+, just didn't make a Pro Bowl. Maybe it's just easier to draft defense. It's just easier to find a game wrecker and a play wrecker than somebody that fits into a great scheme. I'll give you an example. If you go look at Brady in New England, his last year in New England, he was 12-4, but it was mostly because of the defense. Belichick could still get the defense right. The offense, they had no receivers. His last couple of years, and then when he left, their offense got even worse. If you look at Kansas City right now, their defense is fine. The problem is they can't find a running back. They can't get a receiver that can stay on the field. They can't necessarily find a replacement for Travis Kelce. And once again, their O-line's in a rebuild. Is that it's probably just harder to draft offense than it is defense. I mean, but before Bo Nix was great, they got the defense figured out in Denver. And Sean Payton's an offensive guy. So, like, Franklin this year for the Broncos is really good. But last year he was a little lost. And it usually takes tight ends. Warren's already really good for the Colts, but it usually takes tight ends like a second year to develop. Wide receivers, Brady and Aaron Rodgers, as they got older, really struggled with young receivers learning the system. So, I mean, it's very obvious. Greg Cosell talked about this. When you play Kansas City, you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry about the perimeter. That's where they've struggled. That's why they keep bringing Juju Smith-Schuster back. That's why they keep bringing guys back. Here's Greg Cosell on what the Eagles did defensively against Mahomes.
In this game last week, they blitzed quite a bit, a high percentage for Vic Fangio, and they played a lot more man coverage. So he came with a totally different defensive tactical approach. So it's not one thing. There is a sense, and it could be a function of the receivers, but I think there's a sense right now among teams that what you want to do with Patrick Mahomes and the pass game is really clog the middle of the field and make him work outside.
I mean, look at the New York Giants. They've had good defensive personnel for several years. They can't get the offense right. Even when they get the left tackle right, he's always hurt. Look at the Jets. Jets have excellent defensive players. It's been the offensive line, the quarterback spot. They can't get that right. Can't find anybody beyond Garrett Wilson. I mean, you look around the NFL. The Chicago Bears have played defense before. It's usually the quarterback and the offensive line Chicago struggles with. It looks like, now there are some teams where I think the defensive personnel, I think the Colts offensive personnel is actually better than their defense. They don't have a superstar quarterback. But it just may be easier to find the game wrecker than the playmaker, is because on offense, everything has to fit with your coach and your quarterback. You may get a really good receiver, but he doesn't necessarily, he can't, he's young. It took Quentin Johnson. Look at the receiver, J-Mac. Look at the receiver for the Chargers. He is now emerging in year 3. You're like, okay, the light finally is on for Quentin Johnson. First year, he looked like a bust. Last year, he couldn't catch.
He's get the hands. Yeah.
Like a defensive guy, you come into the NFL, blow stuff up. Just blow stuff up. Play fast. And, I mean, Aqib Talib, one time I asked him about this. I said, when you went from, like, Denver to New England, was it hard? He goes, second practice. I knew what Belichick wanted. Noah Edelman took 4 years to work himself into Brady, and he's a all-time postseason stud. Aqib Talib told me, end of the second practice, he goes, yeah, it was really easy defense. So I think when I look at Mahomes and I look at Brady, it's hard to work with those guys. They demand a lot from their linemen, their backs, tight ends, and receivers.
All right, so I'm just thinking out loud here, listening to you. Haven't done a ton of research on this, but it almost sounds like what you're saying is for defense, it's easier to draft because it's C-ball, tackle ball, chase ball, right?
Yeah.
But on offense, not everybody's twitched up and can get open. Maybe for offense, when you're drafting receivers, you draft for the scheme. Kyle Shanahan, Jawan Jennings, 7th-round pick. That guy looks like a stud, right? If you get the guy who can, it's more about the scheme than the guy. Like Josh McDaniels would turn Edelman, Wes Welker, Chris Hogan, a lacrosse player.
Yeah.
You could just scheme them open.
That's right.
But defensively, you need to find guys who can make plays.
It's very rare in the NFL when you draft a guy and you're like, man, he is unblockable. It works.
Okay, so I just
in any scheme, Mike is going to work in any scheme. Aaron Donald works in any scheme. But you can have a receiver who's the fastest guy on the team. But if the quarterback doesn't trust him, Quentin Johnson, first 2 years, he had the drops. Yeah. I mean, Justin Herbert didn't trust him in big spots.
How about Keenan Allen was a 3rd-round pick? He is an elite receiver. That guy's a stud. He didn't go early. Amon-Ra St. Brown, who you love.
Puka Nacua, 5th round.
Yeah, by the way, was Amon-Ra St. Brown incredible at USC?
He was really, really good. But again, he was really, really good. He was a great high school player, but he kind of plateaued at USC. But he was always a hard worker. Dad was like a bodybuilder. He always ran great routes. He was always a smart kid that he squeezed every ounce of his talent. I didn't think he'd be nearly that good in the NFL.
You know what else he was? He's always wide open in the Ben Johnson scheme. I mean, he's just running around open everywhere.